Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Off the Dome podcast. It is episode 5 of season 3 of the Off the Dome podcast. We got a lot to talk about. It is Halloween day right now as I'm recording it. It's actually Halloween night. I got a few topics to talk about. I got 5 different categories I want to get into. There's no guests again on this episode. I'm sorry for letting y'all down on that. I've been kind of dropping the ball trying to get somebody on here. I'm not going to lie. I haven't even reached out to anybody. If you guys have any suggestions that you want to see, let me know. A very popular part of this podcast is the hot take section. That's at the end of the podcast. If you're here for that, that's when that is. If you want your hot take to be in a podcast episode, go to the comment of this video or the comment of a TikTok video and leave your hot take. Just make sure you're following me and you're eligible to be in the next video. It's just that simple. Not a lot to it. Today we're going to be talking about players who are off to a slow start, who will turn it around, who won't. We've had a few of those players. On the same coin, players who have been flying under the radar this year. There's been a few players who have been going off, but with very little people kind of giving them the time of day. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're not very popular players. Fair enough. Which team starts have been legit? Which team starts have been flukes? It's early on in the NBA season. The standings look a bit weird. I'm going to go through the teams that are at the top and bottom of each conference's standings and let you know if I think that team belongs where they are in the standings right now. Rookies this year have been very impressive. I'm going to be talking about the most impressive rookies so far. This is again another very deep draft class. And I'm not going to say that this draft class is better than draft classes in the past, because over the past 5-6 years, the NBA they've been having some great drafts, not going to lie. And it's ever since, the one that I really think changed it was the year that Alonzo Ball got drafted. I think that was a 2017 draft when that was a one and done draft. I remember pretty much everybody was one and done in college. And since then, it's been like that. Everyone who gets drafted, they're all one and done. And we've had a lot of great rookie classes since then. And finally, going to be ending it off with some fan hot takes. I got a few to go through. I've gotten them written down in my notes already. So yeah, this is going to be very interesting. Very fun podcast lined up for you guys today. And let's get this bread. It's just that simple. We're going to be starting off with players who are off to a slow start. Who will turn it around? All right, there have been a few players that they've been struggling so far. The stats that I have here are as of Saturday night. So if you're watching this a bit later on in the week, these stats are probably a little bit different. The first player, James Harden, putting up 18.7 points per game, 7 boards per game, and 8 assists per game. His free throw attempts per game, he's been averaging 3 free throws per game until he had 19 attempts versus the Pacers. James Harden this year, it's been widely covered, as it often is when Harden struggles, that he's been struggling so far this year. One second, I'm going to move this microphone out of the way. This is kind of bugging me real quick. One second, guys. All right, we're good. We're better. James Harden, as it always is, when he struggles, everybody talks about it. Everybody's got their opinion to say about James Harden struggling. And at the beginning of this year, still now he's been struggling to get back in stride. He looks out of shape. He doesn't look like he did last year. The thing with Harden, though, and as we will all be reminded of as the season goes on, the thing with James Harden is we say that about James Harden every year. We do. Every single year, it's, Harden's getting off to a slow start this year. Harden looks out of shape. Harden looks this, Harden looks that. I don't know if you guys remember, but last year, James Harden was getting a ton of hate before the season even started because he was going out to strip clubs, he was unfocused, and he looked out of shape. People were making fun of his weight. It's the same story with James Harden every year. It's the same slander on James Harden every year. He needs free throws. He draws fouls, and the refs, the refs always give James Harden the calls. Well, this year they're not giving James Harden the calls. They're not doing it, and Harden's been struggling. Do I think that this means that James Harden is washed? Hell no. Harden's still going to get his 25 points per game. That's still going to happen this year. He's going to be averaging 25, 8, and 8 round about there for James Harden. And where we've been seeing, he just had a triple-double. He attempted 19 free throws the other day. Harden's still going to find a way to get to the free throw line. He always will. And Harden's still going to find a way to put up 20 to 25 points per game on this Brooklyn Nets team. It's a stacked team, and he's not the primary scorer because they got Kevin Durant, but Harden's still going to get his buckets. Damien Lillard's been putting up 19 points per game, 2 boards per game, 7.6 assists per game on 26% from downtown. Damien Lillard's been struggling this year. And this is weird. I'm not used to seeing Lillard struggle out of the gates. I think in past years, Damien Lillard has been quite good coming out of the gates. I don't really remember him struggling at all coming out of the gates. And this year, I think the thing with Dame is he's starting to play with CJ McCollum again. The Portland Trailblazers are fully healthy, I think, at the moment as far as their stars are concerned. I'm just going to see where they are right now in the standings because Portland's a team that I predicted to be quite high in the Western Conference standings. And currently right now they're 8th. They're 3-3. I'm going to tell you this right now, though. Damian Lillard is getting all the spotlight right now because he's struggling on Portland. But one man who maybe should be getting more of the attention than Lillard on the Portland Trailblazers has been CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum comes back from injury, and he's been balling out. Might I remind you guys that CJ McCollum for the Portland Trailblazers, after the first round of the playoffs, is the best player on that team. He is. CJ McCollum is a better basketball player and has done more than Damian Lillard has done after the first round of the playoffs. I'm just going to put that right there. I'm a big CJ McCollum fan, and I think that he's one of the most underrated players in the NBA, one of the best two guards in the NBA, and I don't think he's ever made an All-Star game either, which is crazy about CJ McCollum, and I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten the name CJ McCollum because he was injured last year. That's Lillard. Bradley Beal as well has been struggling. As I recorded these stats, Beal's been putting up 21.5 points per game, 6 boards per game, 4.5 assists per game, and Bradley Beal's been doing that on 17.2 3-point percentage. Absolutely atrocious from Bradley Beal. I mean, if Beal can't get you efficient threes, then what can Beal really do? I mean, his value goes way down. The one thing I do like about Washington this year is they got Spencer Dinwiddie. Y'all heard Spencer Dinwiddie? Washington right now, they're 5-1 in the season. Beal's been struggling, but Washington, they're one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference right now. They're tied with the best record in the Eastern Conference right now. And it's been mainly because of the role players, not just Bradley Beal. One of those players I'm going to be talking about a bit later. But Washington, I'm looking at them, they're 5-1. Their best player, Bradley Beal, is putting up 21.5 points per game on 17% shooting from downtown. Well, how does that work? How does the math add up there? It's simple. It's two names. It's Spencer Dinwiddie and it's Montrezl Harrell, who have been balling out this year, but have not been getting any attention whatsoever. Washington has been flying under the radar, and it's those two guys have been going crazy. Kyle Kuzma as well gets a lot of hate, putting up good numbers, helping Washington get a lot of wins. The next player who's been struggling is Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's been 21.4 points per game so far, 9.4 boards per game, and 4.2 assists per game. And I've written here in my notes, is this because Ben Simmons isn't on the team? Is this what it is? Because listen, Ben Simmons, I think we all know Ben Simmons has his problems. All right, he's not that good at shooting. He can't do a lot of things that you'd expect out of a point guard. But Ben Simmons not playing for Philadelphia right now has really impacted Philadelphia's best player, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid doesn't have a Ben Simmons there to help him out. If Ben Simmons not being in the lineup results in your best player, the player who was the front runner for the MVP for a large part of the year last year in Joel Embiid, to be giving you 21.5 points per game through the first 7 or 8 games of the regular season, if that's what Ben Simmons' absence means to Philadelphia, they got to get that man back. Because you can't have your superstar doing that. He's not even averaging 10 boards a game. I mean, it's early on in the year, but I'm just kind of posing the question there, is Joel Embiid's poor performance so far because he doesn't have a point guard. He doesn't have Ben Simmons in the lineup to help him out. It could be. It could be. The next three guys I've got here are the big three on the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix, they struggle out of the gate. I think they're back to 500 right now. They're 2-3 right now. They were 1-3 to start the season off. But DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker, they have not been putting up the numbers, at least, that I would have expected. Let's start with DeAndre Ayton. He's putting up 13 points per game, 11.3 boards per game, and 1.5 assists per game. It's a young career. That's his lowest points per game in his career so far. His third, fourth year. DeAndre Ayton's been struggling so far this year. Chris Paul. You want to talk about career lows? Chris Paul, 12 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, 10.8 assists per game. He's leading the NBA in assists per game. All right? Credit where credit is due for Chris Paul right there. But what really strikes me about Chris Paul so far this year, yeah, he's leading the league in points per game. And say what you will about the stat box plus minus, okay? But the reality is with Chris Paul is that his box plus minus per game this year is minus 14. That is atrociously low. That's a career low for not only points per game, career low for box plus minus, obviously, but you have to go back to 2007 since Chris Paul has had a minus box plus minus per game average. 2007. Chris Paul in 2007 was having little snippets on the end of Drake's songs. I don't know if you guys ever heard that song. I forget what it is. It's like, hey, it's CP3, Chris Paul, whatever. It's on the snippet of the back end of a Drake song. Chris Paul was like, Chris Paul had fucking samples on Drake songs. The last time this man was a minus box plus minus per game. He's minus 14 box plus minus per game this year. That is, it's shit. It's shit. The last time he was a minus was, they were nicknaming Wheelchair Jimmy off Degrassi the Chris Paul of the fall the last time this man was in the minus or box plus minus per game. Shit, Chris Paul. Come on now. Devin Booker, all right? Career low points per game since his rookie season this year. Ayton, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker. It's been an early season, but those three are all putting up career low points per games. You have to go back to Booker's rookie season, since he's been putting up anything less than 21.5 points per game. He's putting up 4.8 rebounds per game, 5.0 assists per game. I think they'll turn it around. I really do. But it's just something that's kind of caught my eye. The Phoenix Suns' best players struggling coming out of the gate. And finally, the man who's been letting down not only the Denver Nuggets, but a lot of people who picked him in fantasy basketball this year, Michael Porter Jr., that man got paid so much money, and he's been struggling. 11.6 points per game, 4.8 rebounds per game, 2.8 assists per game for Michael Porter Jr. How much did he get paid? $205 million over the course of 5 years? Some shit like that? And you're giving me 11.5 points per game. Bro, what the... Michael Porter, you got to get your shit fixed. First off, Denver, I don't know why they gave him that much money. Like that much. You don't have to give him the maximum. You could have just not given him that much. I don't know. I don't know why Denver did that. Maybe they were entitled to, whatever. But Michael Porter Jr., when you just get paid $205 million over the course of 5 years, and to start off the season with your brand new big contract, you're giving me 11.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, 2.2 assists per game. We already knew you weren't worth that kind of money, but come on, you're making it a bit too easy on us now. You're letting down your fantasy owners. By the way, my fantasy team so far this year is fucking amazing, as you would expect it to be. Maybe I'll go through some of the players on that team, maybe at the end of this podcast or later on in the year when it's not 2 weeks into the year, and just so I don't jinx myself, right? Because right now, knock on wood, my fantasy team's cracked. It just is. All right, which teams' starts are legit, which teams' starts have been flukes so far this year. The standings looking weird. The standings always look weird at the start of the season. They always do. And there's a few teams this year that I don't think really belong where they are in the standings right now. A few teams have shocked me. I'm going to add, and it's tough here because there's one team I want to talk about that I haven't written down here, but I realized maybe I should because I think I was wrong about this team. It's the first team that I'll admit. I think it's too early, but it's the first team that I'm sort of second guessing my preseason thoughts on that team. First off, we're going to start off with teams that have gotten off to hot starts this year. This is expected, unexpected. These are the teams that have gotten off to the best starts this year as of Halloween. The Knicks, the Bulls, the Heat, the Wizards, the Hornets, the Jazz, Warriors, and Timberwolves. They've been getting off to the hottest starts this year. They've been balling out. Okay, the teams that have been getting off to the worst start this year. The Magic, Pacers, Pistons, Suns, Rockets, OKC Thunder, Spurs, Pelicans, and Clippers they've gone off to the worst starts this year. I'm going to tell you guys which of those teams, which of their starts are legitimate, which of them are a reflection of how good that team actually is, and which of them have just been flukes so far this year. Because let's be real, early on in the year, there's going to be a hell of flukes. You know, that's just how the bullshit goes. We're going to start off with legit teams. Legit teams that have gotten off to a hot start this year are as follows: the Bulls, the Miami Heat, the Utah Jazz, and the Golden State Warriors. Those four teams right there, they've gotten off to really hot starts, and they are legitimately that good. Okay, Chicago's 5-1. Chicago's got a lot of hype. They had a lot of hype going into the year. I don't typically like to buy into that kind of hype, especially when it's made up of a bunch of players who are unproven in the playoffs. You look at a team that's made up of Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo, Vucevic. Those guys they've done fuck all in the playoffs. They really have. I mean, the guy with the most experience is DeMar DeRozan. The last time he was in the third round of the playoffs was in 2016. The last time he went past the first round, he got swept by LeBron in 2017. He doesn't have a lot of recent playoff history. Guys like Vucevic, I think the only playoff history he has is getting swept by the Milwaukee Bucks, I think it was. Or I think he beat Toronto in Game 1 in 2019 and then got gentlemen swept. I don't know. The Orlando Magic's recent playoff history is short. It's brief. And then, obviously, Lonzo Ball's never made the playoffs, but Zach LaVine's never made the playoffs. But a team like Chicago Bulls, they're made of so many players who have not proven themselves. I think I had every right to be like, hey, look, I don't quite believe in you guys. Early in the season, they're 5-1. I'm looking at Chicago. I'm saying I would not want to go and face the Chicago Bulls in a 7-game series where they have home court advantage. There's no way that I want to set foot in the United Center in a playoff game. That is a nightmare. That's a recipe for disaster. That will not go well. I don't care what team you are. You could be the Brooklyn Nets with a healthy Kyrie. You could be the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo in his final form. United Center in the playoffs with that Chicago Bulls team that's that electric, I mean, that place will be buzzing. The roof is set to come off the building because that is one of the most intimidating home courts in the NBA. It just is. The Bulls. Fair play. You guys deserve the start you guys have gotten off to. Speaking of another 5-1 team, the Miami Heat, 5-1. Kyle Lowry comes over there. I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm saying I don't really know if this team, are they really all that? I still don't think that they're a contender, nor are the Bulls. I don't think the Bulls are going to win the championship this year, but both those teams have kind of proven to me that, look, just because they're getting a lot of hype and they're made up of a lot of players who are unproven in the playoffs doesn't mean that they're that bad. Now, Miami, obviously, they're made up of players who are much more proven, playoff proven than the Chicago Bulls. If the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls met in the playoffs this year, I would take the Miami Heat 9 times out of 10, especially if Miami has home court. If Chicago has home court, I'd say it's 50-50. Again, Chicago's home court in the playoffs with that electric basketball team they have, that's scary. I don't want to see that. Nope. It reminds me of the Toronto Raptors home court advantage they had in 2019. Toronto, when you got the thing is in the playoffs is that the home court advantage is already crazy enough. There's already so much tension built up when it's just basic fundamental basketball being played. But just imagine when you got Zach LaVine doing windmill dunks on the fast break, pulling out a 360 on the end of a 10-0 run in the middle of third quarter in Game 5 of a type playoff series. That would just lift the roof. I mean, that's not a situation you want to be in as a visiting team. Miami and Chicago, if they were to play in a 7-game series, I'd probably take Miami because all their players are proven. Butler, Bam Adebayo, Kyle Lowry, the list goes on. Players who have seen play in the playoffs, win championships, make the NBA Finals, do great things. Chicago, they're made up of players that are not proven in the playoffs. I've already kind of gone over that. The Utah Jazz and the Golden State Warriors out west. Golden State, I've said over and over again, they're a contender in the NBA. They really, truly are. They don't even have Klay Thompson back. I've seen a few clips of him training, practicing. He looks good. He looks scary. If I'm a team in the Western Conference, I'm praying that Klay Thompson is not the same Klay when he comes back. Because if Klay Thompson comes back to being 2017, 2018, 2019 Klay Thompson, watch out. Because Golden State's got a real shot at the ring. They really do. The Utah Jazz this year, another team that you want to talk about home court advantage. The Utah Jazz have home court advantage. They blew a playoff series last year to the Clippers, in my opinion. They should have won that series. No Kawhi Leonard down the stretch of that series. And the biggest problem, I think, for Utah is that they need to find a way to keep Rudy Gobert engaged in the game. Rudy Gobert against the Clippers got exposed. Clippers ran 5 out. GG. I mean, you're screwed in that situation because Gobert can't guard the perimeter. He just can't. All right? Maybe you got to zone it. I don't know. But Rudy Gobert is such an instrumental piece of that Utah Jazz team. I think after a week of the year, Basketball Reference had Rudy Gobert ranked number 1 in the MVP race, which is kind of weird to see. But the fact that that's a thing, because they just use algorithms and numbers and shit like that, it's not based on opinion, those rankings. But the fact that there's some algorithm out there that has Rudy Gobert first in the MVP race at this point in the season, just as untrue as it is, in my opinion. It speaks volumes to the true value when you take advanced stats into consideration that Rudy Gobert brings, especially on defense. I think the Jazz are a legit team. Could I see them making the NBA Finals? Slim chance. But they're always a tough out in the playoffs. Always a tough out, especially when they're healthy. Legit starts of teams that have been shit this year. The San Antonio Spurs. My Spurs. I'm wearing Tony Parker's retirement jersey retirement shirt right now. Spurs are getting off to a bad start. Look, man, San Antonio, it's okay. Let's get in the lottery this year. That's what I'm banking on. Let's get a top 10 pick. Let's build on our young core. DeJounte Murray, at 25 years old, is entering his prime. And DeJounte Murray, I'm going to talk about him a little bit in the next segment of this show. He's a bad man, and he's doing great things for the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs suck this year. They're going to have a bad record. I'm not that mad at that. I think that let's just only play our young guys, get them experience, draft up, and hopefully we have a good team in 3-4 years. Spurs, Rockets, of course, OKC Thunder, same sort of. I mean, look, Rockets, Spurs, OKC, Pistons, Magic. These teams are all bad teams this year, legitimately bad teams, and it's because they're just young. That's really the criticism on those teams. They're young teams. That's what you expect out of them. You look at the average age of those teams, and it's well under the NBA's average. Fair enough. I'm not holding that against them. I think it's good. They're all kind of rebuilding. All right. They're in that stage of their franchise right now. New Orleans, shitty team this year. I don't know what the fuck's happening with Zion Williamson, man. Like, that man, every time I see him, it's like he gets bigger and bigger. I'm not trying to body shame the man, but with his physical appearance right now, he doesn't give me the vibe that he could throw down from the free throw line like I've seen him do before. He doesn't give me the vibe that he's going to go out there and give me 27 points a game like I saw him do last year. I don't know what the fuck's happening with Zion Williamson. Luckily, the New Orleans Pelicans, they got another man, Jonas Valanciunas, who's acting a little bit like Zion Williamson so far this year. Jonas Valanciunas has been a fucking problem for any team that tries to guard. I'm going to talk about Jonas again in the next segment here. Yeah, those are legit teams that have gone off to good and bad starts. Teams that have gone off the fluke starts this year. The Knicks, Wizards, Hornets, and Timberwolves have all gotten off to very good starts this year, but I don't think it's going to last. New York's getting a lot of hype right now, but they're a play-in team in my opinion. Right now, New York, they're sitting at the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I think they got the best record in the NBA. No, Utah does. 6-1. Knicks are 5-1. Knicks got a lot of hype, sitting with the best record in the East, second best record in the league. That being said, I still think they're a play-in team. I still believe the Knicks are a play-in team. At best, a 6 seed, maybe 5 seed. I don't know. I just don't think that they're a top 4 contending for Eastern Conference home court advantage. I don't think they will be come playoff time. But that being said, the East is wide open right now. It's weird to say that. You got, Brooklyn and Milwaukee, the 2 best teams in the East, are sitting at 8th and 10th. Which, of course, it's early on in the season. That's going to change, but it's going to show you that the East is wide open. It really, truly is. The Timberwolves, I got a chance to finally watch the Timberwolves. Karl-Anthony Towns, I'm telling you something right now. Karl-Anthony Towns has been flying under the radar for too long. He's a problem. Him and Anthony Edwards, that's a big problem. They're brewing something in Minnesota. All right, there's something in the water in Minnesota because Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards healthy together, they're looking really good. And the thing with Karl-Anthony Towns this year is that he's got better at defense. His defense has always been his biggest flaw in his game, but he's been blocking people like crazy. He's had a few games now where he's gotten 3 blocks. He's moving his feet better on defense. Karl-Anthony Towns looks a lot better defensively. We already know what he can do offensively. And the fact that he plays in Minnesota, I think he's one of the more underrated offensive big men. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the league, not because people don't know about his talent, but because people don't see him play. People don't see the Minnesota Timberwolves play. They're not ever on national TV. If they are on national TV, we'll watch something else because the Timberwolves historically normally are ass. This year they're a bit better, but still, Minnesota, they're not going to make the playoffs. They give me 11 seed, 10 seed vibes. Maybe get the play-in game. That'd be nice for Minnesota. And fluke starts of teams that have gotten off to a bad start. Suns have gotten off to a bad start. I think we all know they're going to be able to turn it around. The LA Clippers have gotten off to a pretty bad start. Again, safe to say that they'll be able to turn it around. I'm not sure. Paul George has been doing his thing, but still, you look at the Clippers currently, they're 1-4. Not looking too good. And finally, this is my own hot take right now. This is my own hot take. The Indiana Pacers are a playoff team in the East. That's not a very popular thing for me to say right now at this point in the year. I understand that. That's what I'm saying. It's a hot take. Okay, they're 1-6. They're sitting in the basement of the Eastern Conference. But I think that this team can make the playoffs in the East. Clip this. They're 1-6 right now. Pacers to the playoffs. Book it. All right. That's hot and cold teams right now. Which teams are flukes, which teams are not. Up next, players flying under the radar this year. I love this section. I love talking about these kinds of players who don't get the national media attention that I think they should be getting. And early on in the year, there's so many players that fit this mold who have a great stretch of games but just don't get the recognition. Fair enough. All right. The first player that I want to talk about who's been going crazy this year but I don't see getting any attention is the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Jonas Valanciunas on the New Orleans Pelicans. This man is putting up 19.5 points per game, 14.6 rebounds per game, and 2.7 assists per game. He's been a fucking monster for New Orleans this year. Where did this come from? I swear to God, this was not here last year when he was on Memphis. I'm not sure, but Jonas, for fantasy basketball owners out there, this man, if you have Jonas Valanciunas on your team or you're going up against Jonas Valanciunas on your team, he's a problem. Jonas Valanciunas has been doing monsterly things, beastly things this year. He's been going off. The next man The next man who's been flying under the radar this year, and I feel like I say this about this man every year, except for last year when he was on the Lakers. Montrezl Harrell. He's doing it again. He's doing it again. Y'all thought you got the last of Montrezl Harrell when he was on the Clippers and he called Luka Doncic a bitch-ass white boy. By the way, that quote got me like 157,000 likes on TikTok, so shout out Trez for that. But Montrezl Harrell this year, he's not getting the attention he deserves. 19.3 points per game, 10.2 rebounds per game, 1.8 assists per game. Montrez, not only that, but his team are 5-1. The Washington Wizards are 5-1 right now, tied with the best record in the Eastern Conference. And he's 5-1 with Bradley Beal shooting 27% from three. 17% from three. Montrezl Harrell's got his team to one seed in the East with their best player, Bradley Beal, shooting 17% from three, putting up 20 points per game. Trez is balling this year. Trez is balling. He's been balling out early on in this season, and I hope he continues balling because I'm a big fan of Trez. Big fan of Montrez. The next player who's been flying under the radar this year, and this is finally the year, I think, where he will get the attention he deserves. He's a very likable player. Not a lot to dislike about him. He's on my Spurs. Okay, I know in years past I've been quick to call this man better than he is. Fair enough, whatever. But if you haven't been paying attention to DeJounte Murray, it's about damn time you do, because he's the future. He really is. He's a long, tall point guard, and he's almost averaging a triple-double this year. I know. Listen to these numbers. DeJounte Murray, it's early on in the year, but it's still legit. 17.8 points per game. He's putting up 8.5 boards per game and 8.8 assists per game. And oh, by the way, he's one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. He's averaging 2.2 steals per game so far this year on the San Antonio Spurs. Now, this DeJounte is one of those players that if he got out of the team he's on, the small market he's on in San Antonio, is San Antonio a small market? I don't know. They're not a very popular team. But if DeJounte Murray was on a team like the Bulls or the Miami Heat or, the Lakers or Knicks, obviously, everybody would know who DeJounte Murray is, because he's an electric player who does it all. He does it all. Offense, defense, all of it. Shoot threes, get inside, make plays, grab boards. He does it. He does everything. 6'5" point guard. Young, fast, flashy. But he plays on the Spurs, so no one really talks about him. But DeJounte Murray, man, learn the name. Remember the name DeJounte Murray. 25 years old, he's entering his prime. He's entering his prime years. He really is. Up next, another player who has been going under the radar this year, but not only this year, this man is always underrated. He's always overhated, and fair enough. Everyone's got their reasons to hate Rudy Gobert. Everyone's got their reasons to clown Rudy Gobert. I get it. In the playoffs, he's gotten exposed the last few years. Last year, I would give Gobert a break. Not every team is the Clippers last year and can run a 5-out offense where everybody is 6'8" and can shoot threes. That's what the Clippers are doing last year, even when Kawhi Leonard went out. Everyone was like 6'5" to 6'10". You had Nick Batum, who looked like fucking Kukoc in the 90s, just draining threes from the logo. Clippers in that Jazz series were like, what the fuck is happening? All right, give Gobert a break for that one. But Rudy Gobert, 17.8 points per game, 18 flat boards per game on 72% shooting from the field. He's putting up Bill Russell numbers, man. That's literally the numbers Bill Russell used to be putting up back in the day. Rudy Gobert was born in the wrong time frame, man. He was born in the wrong era. I always hear people talking about, what if so-and-so is playing in today's game? You know what I mean? Like, or different players saying, or people saying that some players were meant for different eras. Demar Derozan, who was meant for the 90s. Fair enough. Steve Kerr, what if he was playing in today's NBA? Reggie Miller, what if Reggie Miller was playing in a league today? Imagine how much better he'd be. Those are very valid. But I'm going to throw another one at you. Imagine Rudy Gobert in Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain's time. Bro. Nah, man, because if he's putting up 18 and 18 right now on 72% shooting from the field, in today's NBA, like, that's not a thing that people do. People don't put up those kinds of numbers. Gobert's been going crazy this year. I have him on a fantasy basketball team. He's going crazy. And the thing with Gobert is he's the best defensive player in the NBA. I don't care what y'all say. I mean, this man is the best defensive player in the NBA. He is. People are terrified of the guy. People are terrified. I don't want to hear it. And I get it. It's Rudy Gobert. Easy to slander, whatever. Not very popular. But again, just like every other year, Gobert is flying under the radar. He's one of the best players in the NBA. He always has been. And I mean, Utah, they're in a win now kind of mode. And shit, they're winning right now. They're 6-1. Next up, Karl-Anthony Towns. I already talked about this man a little bit. Karl-Anthony Towns has been very good this year. 25.2 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, 3.8 assists per game. His defense is looking a lot better. 2 blocks per game so far this year. And Minnesota, winning record. It's 5 games into the year, but come on, it's the Timberwolves. They're 3-2. Give them credit, all right? For now, at least, because it's probably not going to last. But shit, all right. Karl-Anthony Towns looking pretty good. And finally, the last player who's been going off this year. And I really haven't seen too many posts about him on social media or too many people talking about him on social media. But Jimmy Butler this year is going brazy. He is going crazy right now. I thought it was a typo when I was looking up Jimmy Butler's stats this year. Looking up how good the Miami Heat were doing this year. I was like, are you sure these aren't the stats from Jimmy Butler's playoff run a couple of seasons ago? Butler this year is putting up 25.3 points per game, 7 boards per game, 5.5 assists per game, and 2.8 steals per game? And his team is 5-1, best record in the East? Why haven't I been hearing about this man? No one's typing up Jimmy Butler this year. It's like the Jimmy Butler hype train was forgotten about back in 2020, a year ago. It's weird. I don't know where it went. One of those popular players in the NBA is not getting any recognition right now. It's a bit interesting because Butler is having the best season of his career so far. And 2.8 steals per game. This man's a menace to society. Those are the players I wanted to highlight who've been flying under the radar so far this year. There's so many more we can talk about. So many more players have been going crazy. Up next, though, and by the way, if there are any players that I missed or players that I said but you disagree with, let me know in the comments, whatever. Up next, most impressive rookies so far. There have been a few rookies that have really shone, who look like they're NBA ready to the nines. Like, it's not even a question. These guys belong in the league. And 2 in particular that I've noticed is obviously Scottie Barnes. I mean, this man, he's a total package in the NBA. He's everything that you could ever ask for out of a rookie, Scottie Barnes. He's, I think, the most polished player out of this draft class. And what I wrote here, he's a total package. Rookie with the greenest light. Toronto's all in on him. That's true. Scottie Barnes this year, not only is he a great basketball player, not only is he a very polished basketball player, he's a total package. But the thing that has made Scottie Barnes really pop off the screen this year, in my opinion, is that Toronto, they've given him the green light to do whatever the fuck he wants, as they should. They're saying, look, we got Pascal Siakam out on injury. By the way, Pascal Siakam should be a little bit worried by the shit Scottie Barnes has been doing on the court right now, because he's Pascal, bro. Like, everyone's saying at the start of the year, oh, Scottie Barnes is going to be moved to the bench once Pascal Siakam comes back. Hell no. Bro, put Scottie Barnes in that fucking point guard, man. Let's get this shit. Because Scottie Barnes, he got the greenest light right now in pretty much the entire NBA. I mean, Scottie Barnes, his green light is as green as Steph Curry's. I'm pretty sure that Toronto does not care what Scottie Barnes do. He could just jack up threes all game from half court, and they'd be like, all right, whatever. We don't care. Because he's the future of this team. He is. Toronto, y'all better hold on to Scottie Barnes, man. Do not fuck it up with Scottie Barnes. Keep the man happy. Play him whatever position he wants to play. Point guard, shooting guard, small, center. If Scottie Barnes wants to be the head coach of your basketball team, let Scottie Barnes coach the damn team. Keep Scottie Barnes happy. This man is phenomenal. He really is. Really and truly is. And don't let him get hurt either. God damn, that would suck ass. Scottie Barnes, obviously. Chris Duarte on the Indiana Pacers, though. This man, and it's one thing that Chris Duarte has made me notice and maybe really think about this year. All right, he's the oldest rookie in the class. In my opinion, he's the most polished rookie in the class out of Oregon. He's 24 years old. He's coming out of his 4th or 5th year in university. He's obviously going to be the most polished player. The most polished player coming out of the rookie draft class. My question is, though, for you guys, should teams who are in a win-now mode, who aren't trying to rebuild anytime soon, contending teams, should they, in the NBA draft, look to pick 3rd, 4th, or 5th-year players out of university to help them out in the NBA draft, in probably the second round or even in the first round? A guy like Chris Duarte is a perfect example of that. Imagine a guy like Chris Duarte, he could walk into any team he wants in the NBA right now. All right, not as a starter, obviously, but he can play a big role on a contending team. Imagine if the Bucks had picked him, if the Lakers had picked Chris Duarte. Chris Duarte is the kind of guy who could play big minutes in a playoff game. Right now, I can see Chris Duarte playing big minutes in a playoff game. He's more mature than pretty much anybody his age or younger in the NBA, in my opinion. That's what I'm asking. Should contending teams just say, hey, look, we got this guy. He's 23, 24 years old. He's still playing in school. Why not pick him? He's a polished basketball player. He can play big minutes for us. You don't even need to play big minutes. Just come in there and do a job for a little bit. If you're not trying to rebuild anytime soon, I think just pick the best players, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but in March Madness, it's never the freshmen, it's never the high draft picks who are doing everything in college basketball. It's never the guy who's going number 1 overall who's winning in March Madness. It's the older, more experienced players. And that translates over to the NBA, I think. Jalen Suggs is having a great year. Davion Mitchell's been doing great. And those guys, you see what they did. They carried their teams to the March Madness Finals. Just a question. Speaking of Jalen Suggs, other guys that have been going off this year, other rookies that have been going off this year, Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, Evan Mobley, Josh Giddey, Franz Wagner, Davion Mitchell, and finally, my favorite one of them all, Austin Reeves on the LA Lakers, man. This man's a problem, bro. I'm telling you, Austin Reeves and Alex Caruso. Have you guys seen that picture where it's like, where history always repeats itself as a caption, and it's the picture of Kobe in the Lakers jersey sitting beside MJ in the Bulls jersey, and then beside that picture is Austin Reeves in the Lakers jersey and Alex Caruso in the Bulls jersey. Classic meme. That should go in the meme Hall of Fame right there. I don't give a shit. Those are the rookies that have been going off this year. Finally, the best part of the show, because it gets me the most likes on TikTok. I don't give a shit. I'm shameless about it. It's a long show, by the way, but that's what we're here for. It's time for the fan hot takes. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. It's time. If you would like to have your hot take featured on the next podcast episode, leave it in the comment of this video. Make sure you're following me, and you're eligible. It's just that simple. That's how the bullshit goes. We're starting off with Quentin Foster. Says, hot take, Cavs will make the play-in this year. I like this one. Look, man, Cleveland looks kind of good this year. In the standings, they're 3-4, but Evan Mobley, a lot of upside, and they've had a couple nationally televised games now, back-to-back nights, I think it was. Cleveland's all right. Do I think they'll make the play-in game? Look, I think Cleveland is the East is wide open. That's the thing with the Cavaliers this year. The East is so wide open that you could tell me that pretty much 14 out of the 15 teams could make or 13 out of the 15 teams could make the play-in game this year in the Eastern Conference. The only teams that I don't see having any possibility of making the play-in games this year in the East are the Pistons and the Magic. The other 13 teams in the East all could make the play-in game. That's how wide open this bitch is. It really is. Cleveland make the play-in game? I could see it. I really could. That's my answer right there. At Nick O'Boy with 3 eyes says, hot takes, Bulls make the Eastern Conference Finals. Chicago, in my eyes, right now I have them as the second round out. But that's where I had them at the start of the year. But Chicago, this is a team that if you give the Chicago Bulls home court advantage in the playoffs, because remember, the playoffs is the same thing that wins every time. It's great defense, it's having, obviously, playoff veterans and all that, but a big thing that wins in the playoffs is home court advantage and how crazy of an environment you're playing in. I can promise you the United Center, when Chicago's in there buzzing, is not a fun place to play if you're visiting. Chicago's such an electric team, and that building will be on fire all game long. And if you got to play 4 out of 7 games in the United Center, that's a tough ask for any basketball team to go in there and win a series. Chicago to the Eastern Conference Finals. When I think of that, I mean, normally depending on how the standings would pan out, but assuming the Bucks and Nets get the top 2 seeds, they're going to have to beat either the Milwaukee Bucks or the Brooklyn Nets. And if Chicago were to do that, I mean, it'd be a very entertaining series. I don't think that'll happen. But, I mean, if Chicago doesn't have to go up against the Bucks and Nets, like, say the standings just go out in a way where Chicago can get to the Eastern Conference Finals without having to face one of those 2 teams, similar to how the Hawks made it last year, shit, I could see it because Chicago's electric. And when you get, especially an inexperienced playoff team in there, I mean, Chicago against the Knicks, Chicago against, I don't know, another less experienced playoff team, especially if Chicago has home court advantage, that's a dangerous place to play. It's not very fun. Benny the Jets 33 says, hot take, Jason Tatum, top 3 MVP voting before the year started. I would agree with you. I would. Jason Tatum is still that dude, in my opinion. Jason Tatum has everything needed to be a top 3 MVP candidate this year. He's got the talent, he's got the upside, he's got it all. Except one. I don't think the Boston Celtics finished with a good enough record to have Tatum that high up in the MVP standings. Remember, the Golden State Warriors people will say, oh, Steph Curry last year was top 3, but his Warriors didn't even make the playoffs. Well, that's Steph Curry. Tatum's no Steph Curry. But he's got it all. Jason Tatum has everything he needs to be top 3 in the MVP voting, except for playing on a team that will be high enough in the standings to get him there. Because Boston, at the beginning of the year, I was saying, look, Celtics can make the finals. They really could. I was dead wrong. There's no way. This team, I don't trust Boston anymore, man. I don't trust the Celtics this year, which is sad. Because they got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, 2 of the hottest young players in the game. And they're struggling. That's my take on Jason Tatum. I don't trust the Celtics to be good enough for Tatum to be that high up in the MVP standings, which is unfortunate. Well, who's it? B Golf says, hot take, Jonas Valanciunas is an all-star. I like this one because right now, if the season ended today or if the all-star game was today, Jonas Valanciunas walks into the all-star game. Easy. The way Jonas Valanciunas has been playing this year, good God almighty, this man's a lock for the Western Conference All-Stars. That being said, come February, do I still think Jonas will be playing at a level good enough to be an all-star? Especially comes down to a fan vote? No. But right now, Jonas Valanciunas, he's been real nice. 19 points per game, almost 15 boards per game. He's been a menace to society so far this year. Finally, C-Mac Jacob 0 says, hot take, Scottie Barnes wins MVP in 3 years. You're predicting a rookie today to win the MVP in 3 years. That's hot. That's a hot take for sure. The one comparison I can make to that is, look, Luka Doncic. Can he win the MVP this year? Because this is his 3rd year, I think, right? This is Luka Doncic's 3rd year. Something like that. Or it was last year's 3rd year. But to win the MVP in your 3rd year in the NBA, I don't know when the last time that was done. Something tells me it's a long-ass time ago, like 60s, 70s, Wilt Chamberlain kind of beat Scottie Barnes to win the MVP. And a 30-year player is not going to win the MVP in today's NBA climate. That's getting ahead of ourselves. But if I was to predict how many years until Scottie Barnes is the genuine MVP candidate, top 3, top 5, give him 4. Give him 4 years, and Scottie Barnes will be in the MVP race. Where before the season starts, you're saying, hey, Scottie Barnes got a chance to win MVP. He does. Right now, Scottie Barnes is going to win Rookie of the Year. And after that, I don't know what else. Is he MVP, and then it's Finals MVP, and that's it for Scottie Barnes. Ladies and gentlemen, that is episode 5 of season 3 of the Off the Dome podcast. That was 50 minutes long. Holy shit. That's how the bullshit goes sometimes. All right. What else has been going on? The World Series going on right now. Just finished watching Game 5. Astros won it. 3-2 right now, going back to Houston. If I had to make a prediction who's going to win that, I'd probably think Atlanta still is going to pull it out. I think Atlanta might. I think Atlanta will win Game 6. Win the World Series. What else happened? Premier League's fucking sick. Manchester United finally got a win. Yep. And shit, I mean, that's about it. It's whatever. You know me, feeling good, living better. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it.